Yeah. So the last several days have been extremely busy for the Stockton Police Department, for our community, and very alarming series of crimes that occurred. For example, we had 3 homicides not related to one another, not necessarily all gun related. Some were relationship based. However, 1-2 homicide for our community is too many. To have 3 over a span of a few days is very alarming. So we're really looking at our violent crime strategies, looking how we can enhance those, strengthen them, work with our community-based organizations. I do believe the Stockton Police Department's doing a very good job at responding to a lot of these incidents of violent crime. And I'll give a few examples in a moment, but particularly not only did we see the homicides, but we also saw some significant violent crime against our own police officers. So just 2 examples. One was at a stabbing scene. A female occupant had the lights turned off and accelerated right toward officers, so that's considered an assault on them. And then late last night, we had someone actually, after a traffic stop, as they're fleeing, fire upon the officers. Fortunately, no one was hurt, and that person got away, but we're very assertively looking for that individual, again asking for the community's help. And our men and women at Stockton PD are working very hard to curb this violence. So other examples are the immense amount of firearms, illegal firearms, that we took off the streets. So one example, in just one case, we took a assault rifle, AK-47 style, off of the streets, as well as high-capacity magazines, including a 60-round drum, including a military-grade ballistic bulletproof vest. So these are just the challenges that our officers, this community, is up against. And I just want the community to know we're working hard, we're working with you, and we are not going to tolerate this type of violence, both on our community as well as upon our police officers that are out protecting the community. So we're really going to be beefing up our task forces, especially as the weather warms up, as these incidents seem to be occurring more frequently. And we're going to be seeking a lot of outside help, like we have in the past, with our federal partners, our state partners, other law enforcement partners here within the county as well.
So what is the reason for the uptick? Is it now the weather's warming up, more people out and about, so we're seeing more of these incidents?
There often is a seasonal aspect. However, we can't necessarily attribute this spike to that seasonal warming necessarily. We've also seen spikes where the weather is not warm, but certainly there are more people out and about in public spaces, at gatherings, than you would have during the non-warmer weather. So that certainly could be part of it. The other part is they're not necessarily all linked with one another. We're always looking at, is there a certain trend going on here? Are these crimes linked, or is this just a series of a lot of unrelated events that just happen to happen over the weekend? We're looking at all of that. We don't see any direct links between these. For example, even the firing upon the police officers doesn't seem related to the homicides that we're having. It proved to be an incredibly busy, unfortunate weekend in Stockton, and the men and women of Stockton PD will be working hard with all of our other agencies, again, like I said, on all of these task forces. And it really comes down to shared safety. This isn't just the police department. This is our community. This is our Office of Violence Prevention. These are community-based organizations. We all have to work together for what shared safety means for our community, which is lower violence, and we're going to be working very, very hard on that.
You mentioned violent crime strategies that you're looking at. What are some of those strategies? And I mean, are you rethinking some that you have been doing and looking at new ways?
We're always examining the best practices across the nation, across the state, and for what makes sense in our community. There is no one cookie cutter approach that's going to work for every city. And I think a good strategy is always also being nimble and flexible, and you can adjust as necessary, which we will be analyzing. We work with partners like the Community Partnership for Safe Communities, with academics, because we're always looking at, we are the practitioners, we also need to work with academics on what makes sense for Stockton. We have a number of strategies. There is no one. There are many components, from a firearms reduction consortium, which is working with the district attorney's office, sheriff's agency, probation, multiple agencies, also with our federal partners. We have Ceasefire, which is a very data-driven approach to look at the groups that are flaring up and the individuals within those groups that are committing the most violence. Although some of the recent violence doesn't necessarily pertain to those, it is yet another strategy we have. We also have what we call Project Forebode, which is trying to prevent where violent crime is occurring and putting resources in there on the front end to proactively try to prevent these things. Those are just three I mentioned. We have a variety of violent crime reduction strategies that all work well together. We also have a gunshot detection system known as ShotSpotter. So we're using technology with good policing strategies with community input and help, because we need more tips. We know there are individuals in the community out there that know a lot about these cases, or at least something. So we also need that very strong community involvement component, and they all need to work together. So those are just a few examples of strategies. We're always looking at strengthening those very strategies to reduce violence in Stockton.
So Chief, you were talking about partners coming in. What does this mean? As far as, I know one time CHP came in, or different organizations.
So we're on a number of task forces, and we're actually still actively involved in task forces with the California Highway Patrol, with our federal partners, with Department of Justice on a number of different task forces, as well as FBI, ATF. So what we will be asking for is just renewed and even more commitment from those task forces while we're going through some of these issues. It's been successful, for example, with some of the sideshow activity we've been experiencing. And so we will be applying the same strategies toward violent crime and really within the whole county, because this is a county-wide issue as well, and it involves so many different partners and agencies. We'll be just asking for more commitment, which they do for us when we're having spikes like this.
How often do you ask for increased involvement from another agency like this?
We have ongoing task forces with all of the agencies I mentioned and some more. I would say it seems to be maybe about every year or other year we're actually asking for even more increased support and assistance. So that's the case in this particular event. Is we're gearing up for summer. We want to make sure we're putting all hands on deck to reduce, to try to keep our violent crime down, especially our shootings, but all homicides, all violent crime. So it's not common, but it's not also uncommon for me to ask for some extra help.
When you say renewed commitment, does that mean more resources? Are there officers or agents going to be on the ground here? Or what does that mean?
Really, it's about continuing the partnership, so ensuring that everyone who has some influence over this community from the law enforcement perspective keeps that commitment with us, which they always have. And I would say during this time, adding some additional resources if they're able to, while we are going through the type of violent crime we're experiencing right now in Stockton. We had a more optimistic year last year with some extreme lows. That we are certainly seeing a spike right now, and we want to bring that spike down, certainly, for the residents of this community, for the safety of all of the residents of Stockton, and also for our officers, because now we saw this weekend they're being assaulted as well. And so this is a community-wide issue, and we really should be moving toward shared safety for everyone, and that's exactly what we're working toward.